Welcome to How to Decorate from Ballard Designs, a weekly podcast all about the trials and triumphs of decorating and redecorating your home. I'm Caroline, I'm on the marketing team.
And I'm Taryn, and I'm a product designer.
I'm Liz, I head up the creative team.
We're your hosts. Join the expert team at Ballard Designs for tips, tricks, and tales from interior designers, stylists, and other talents in the design world.
Plus, we'll answer your decorating dilemmas at the end of each episode.
We love answering your questions, so don't forget to email us at podcast@ballarddesigns.net.
Now, on with the show.
Today, we are so excited to welcome back Marie Flanagan, the award-winning interior designer and author. Marie's work has been featured in Architectural Digest, Elle Decor, Vogue, Southern Living, and Traditional Home, and more. She is also known for her role in HGTV's Property Brothers, Brother vs. Brother. And Marie is known for her sophisticated design aesthetic, which seamlessly blends elegance and functionality. Today, we're excited to talk to Marie about her newest book, The Perfect Room, Timeless Designs for Intentional Living. Welcome, Marie.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Oh, it's so great.
I was going to say, so we had you on episode 189, and we are now so deep. So, we've doubled that since we've seen you. So we are very excited.
Oh, my goodness.
And like we were already saying to you, but to the listener, we haven't, Liz or I were on that episode. So this is all brand new. Plus you have a brand new book, The Perfect Room, which we are so excited to dive into and really get down to the whys of it. But I just wanted to start out by saying welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here today.
Do you want to start by giving a little bit of your history just so that anyone who might have missed episode 189 can know a little bit about you?
Yes, absolutely. I run an interior design firm here in Houston, Texas. We have a team of 20 women, and we work on projects all across the country. We're currently doing a couple projects in Florida, Jackson Hole, LA. And, we really focus on architectural interiors. My background is architecture. I made the switch about 15 years ago when I started this company. And, we really just kind of focus on helping people build homes from the ground up. Just are working on a bunch of really exciting projects. And what I'm most thrilled about in this book is where my first book was a little bit more philosophical about design theory. This book, I take you through about 20 different homes and really focus on practical tips for both the seasoned designer and just the design enthusiast, and wanted to give people inspiration for things that they can use in their everyday homes.
Yeah, this book was such a joy to read. The sections walk you through all the different parts of a home, and it's really beautiful introductions to every one of them, and the tips are in the captions, which are just so full of really great knowledge. But can you share us what inspired you to write this book?
Well, first of all, what had inspired me to write this book was really just that we had done so much work in the past 4 years since our first book came out. We've been so busy, and it's just a beautiful way to document the work that my firm has been doing and to take the time to celebrate the work we've been doing. But also, I just really believe in the transformative power of a well-designed home. And I wanted the opportunity to share insights, both theoretical and practical, give guidance and inspiration, and, really just become a resource tool for people.
And this book really emphasizes timeless design and intentional living. What would you say intentional living means to you?
Gosh, well, I think that really plays a role into the whole theme of the book, creating the perfect room. Well, what is perfection and what does that mean? And, I really try to take the reader through thinking about what perfect means for them. And all of us go through different seasons of life and seasons of change. And so the word perfect changes throughout our life. And so I really kind of try to take the reader through different ways of dissecting that in their own life, whether it's like context, both geographical or in architectural, For example, we have a never seen before project up in the Grand Tetons in Jackson Hole, and where it's really a home we did with Jeff Dungan that's like set into the landscape, set into like this really beautiful, rugged landscape. And what does that mean? What does perfect for that space mean? And, how do we bring that context of hand-hewn beams and of stone that you find in the area into the interiors? I take the reader through what does perfect function mean? How does it flow? How are you going to use the room? How should each room feel connected? How do you have you thought about innovative ways to use the space? And then finally, how do you want the room to feel? And how do you want the room to make others feel when you welcome them in? What memories do you want to create? And kind of bringing those thoughts up, so really people can think about each space as both an individual space and how you want to use, for example, the kitchen and what context you want to use that in, but then also how it plays a role in the greater story of the home. I like to say it's like reading a book and each room is a different chapter, and how they connect and the experience and the journey of the home is really important.
That's really super exciting. Can you... No, I love the idea of thinking about a house as a book.
She is jazzed by it. She's like, tell me about my book.
Tell me about my book.
What would you call your perfect room, Liz? Right now, in this phase of life?
It would be my main living room that you walk into right from the front door. I feel like it kind of sets the stage for everything else I have going on in my house.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, and kind of going down that path, that's even one of the reasons why we decided to rename each chapter instead of just calling it living room or kitchen. We called it gather or serve, because just like what you touched on in your living room, it's a space that really is just to embrace and welcome people in and be like the first moment of experience for them. And that's really kind of why I wanted to use verbs, is really to touch on the fact that when you go into a home, rooms should not just be pretty decorated spaces, but they should, inspire an action or a feeling, and, should really kind of embrace people in sometimes a really dynamic, energizing way. And in other, for example, in the retreat chapter, we talk about bedrooms and places of retreat and, finding solace and relaxation as your home is your personal retreat. So kind of just taking the reader through ways for them to think about their home in a new way and ways to design for that intention. Going back to your original question of creating an intentional home, it's really asking people to, think about what is their intention of their home, making this a space that really reflects who they are as people, who they have in their home, whether they have a family, whether they're living alone, and, really kind of designing for that intention.
Yeah. That was the section that totally had me redesigning my bedroom.
Ooh. What are you redoing now based on that section?
Well, no, it's not about me. This is about Marie. But,
I think that means Liz is just brewing, is what I take.
No, I'm totally brewing. But there was a part that really inspired me, and because you've got these really gorgeous photos, and every page has a nugget in the captions that speaks about what's really happening in that room to make that part special. What intrigued me in the repose bedroom section was really, you had an inset bed where you, instead of a headboard, you had a built-in headboard that was kind of built into the wall to kind of, instead of having a traditional headboard, even that might have, wings on the side, just an extra way to kind of make it a little bit of a sanctuary. And really thinking about those architectural details as well as the design, I think was really special.
Thank you. And I appreciate that. And my background is architecture. And I would say we really try to approach every design from an architectural lens. And, one of my greatest joys is working with all of the incredible architects that are highlighted in this book. And I tried to, I was even sad at the amount of incredible photography that wasn't included in the book. But I really tried to incorporate a mix of like large picture room views, which are very aspirational. And, you can think about combining different materials, different types of furniture to create a layered space, but then also close up detailed pictures of exactly what you're describing, whether it's the recessed bed or like the wallpaper detail on the cabinetry, little details that anybody, any budget, any house, you can incorporate into your home. And that was super important to me.
Yeah. Well, that definitely comes through in the book because, at first glance, like you flip through and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is so gorgeous. Like, how can I even achieve this in my own home, which doesn't have all of these great architectural details, but then you really get into it. And I loved the names of the chapters. And I love assigning those verbs to the rooms and really making every section of your home feel more active. It was very exciting. So let's start off with, how we walk into our home with greet and entrance halls. In your book, you highlight the significance of entrance halls and really kind of setting the tone for the rest of the house. And that did get me thinking about my own living room and how that sets the tone for my house. But what are some key elements that you consider when you're designing an entry?
Well, I like to consider entries all the way from the sidewalk. Like, how does somebody approach the front door? How do you make that really welcoming? Do you light the path? Do you add a detail of a cobblestone as you walk into a home? Or is it lit with beautiful sconces? When you come in, do you walk right into a living room? And is there a way to kind of introduce maybe a console table to invite people to put their stuff down? Is there a chair asking somebody to stop and rest for a minute? Or maybe is there like a paneling detail that adds texture and warmth to the space? So I kind of take the reader through a bunch of different options that they could consider within their home, but then based on the type of entry that they want. Some people want a very formal, sophisticated entry that doesn't necessarily welcome you in yet. It's more of like a landing space that feels a little bit more formal. And other people just want to embrace you the minute you come in the door and you are right in the middle of the house right away. And that is beautiful as well. And there's different ways to treat that we explore in the book.
Now, say you have a home you've purchased that doesn't greet the way you want it to greet. Is there some kind of tricks to creating the spaces you speak of? If, for instance, there's not much of a entry?
100%. And I think, one of my favorite ways to do that is through architectural detailing. Maybe there's just a little bit more of a cased opening. Maybe you add a limestone surround on the exterior. Maybe it is on the porch that kind of greets you and gives you that moment. I think, with all of design, it's all about being creative and working with what you have. And I think sometimes it's in that charm and in the imperfection that we find perfection. And I think that that's a theme throughout the book is, perfect spaces don't have to be necessarily perfect. I say this a lot. I live in Texas where, we have a lot more space than other parts of the country. So a lot of times in the architectural phase, problems are solved through adding square footage. And while that is a wonderful solution often, I like to say in remodels, you achieve a level of charm that you don't necessarily always get in new construction because you can't just add more space,
right?
Because you are confined to what you have. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you've got awkward roof lines, and sometimes you have different boundaries that you have to work around. And I think if you embrace the home for what it is, you can find that charm in ways that you would never have been able to if you just had the perfect floor plan, or, if I just had a formal foyer I could stick on the front. Sometimes that's not always the best solution.
Yeah. I mean, that's a life quote right there, right? Waiting for the perfect moment for things instead of doing it. So I agree. There's a little bit of embracing the home that is so vital for that happiness to happen too. So
Well, and I absolutely love the idea of utilizing and thinking about the outside as the entry hall if you don't have that space.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Architecturally.
But even in architecture, I'm seeing so many, like people are even encasing the front yard with like a small little pony wall of sorts, like where, let's say they have a brick home or a stone home, and they allow like a little short wall in the front where it's like you come through a gate first and then and then you change the landscaping. You have like an entry bench. You can have a small fountain. It's the experience. You plant lavender, so that's even the smells. You engage the senses in every regard, not just the sight, but the smell, the sound of a waterfall, the flickering of the light guiding you through the entry. There's just so many beautiful ways to enhance a home.
I love that, and I'm taking it away.
I also feel like, based on the book, if you got some tall branches in a vase, it really adds some height. Just add height.
Oh, the stories I could tell of where we got those branches from.
This is the place to tell it.
Where'd you get the branches?
Typically in the backyard.
Fantastic.
Or along the highway.
I
love along the highway.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than incorporating something living, something natural. And sometimes it's not like the perfect branch you order or you buy at the store. It is the most beautiful tree that you already have growing in your backyard that you can cut a limb from. And so often you can even let those limbs dry and save them forever. I was literally just in a house that we installed probably 5 years ago this week, and they still had the same branches. They just let them dry. And I was like, exactly, this is amazing. This is
That's awesome.
You're like, I'm really smart. I picked timeless branches. Little dusty brown leaves, but timeless. I'm kidding.
Shake them off.
Totally. No, that's great. That's a great tip. But no, all your entries actually have that beautiful height. And I think that's just a good little like tidbit to note is you have some beautiful little trinkets and items that really, make the place feel lived in. And then some big old branches.
Well, and I think that's a point we talk about in the book too, is make your house feel personal. And, don't design for the neighborhood, design for yourself, and do really dissect what you find beautiful. I always like to give the tip is, create your own little look and feel board, whether it's through Pinterest or literally on a pin board in your own home. And especially if two people are designing and they don't agree on style, they can put in pieces that they love. One of the end results that I'm always looking for is to make a house feel layered and collected over time. Not, you went to a furniture store and just bought the collection. So really embrace two people in the home wanting different styles, because I think just by bringing in that layered feel is how you achieve these rooms that feel very layered, and creating vignettes around a space can give you that feel as well.
Okay, so this leads me to something I found in your book that I really loved, because I would describe your work as really beautifully tailored. And while you're talking about developing a layered look, like it's very gorgeous and tailored. So I was trying to put my finger on how you're pulling that off. And when I came across a quote, I always strive for simplicity and sensory abundance that delights without distracting. And I wanted to know, can you talk a little bit about how you can design within both of these realms of simplicity and abundance, sensory abundance?
Ooh, it's a great question. I think so much of my work is defined by creating warmth through texture. And I think we can think of abundance as like a sensory experience. I believe in simplicity in our homes just as a overall ethos, especially in going back to wanting our homes to be a retreat for us. And I think that can mean several things, and different rooms can illustrate that in different ways. That doesn't mean you can't, really embrace like pattern on pattern in a space, but simplicity can be really brought into action in so many different ways. And, even in the book, you'll see that there's different expressions and personalities throughout these projects. For one, I really embrace the client and the homeowner and what they find beautiful. I don't really believe in kind of being Marie's same expression in all of these homes, that I'm just coming in and, putting what I find beautiful. I like to steal a quote from Bobby McAlpine, who has said once, I believe it was him who said it, each client allows me the opportunity to be a new designer. And I really believe in that. And my firm really believes in that. And, there's more traditional homes in the book. There's more contemporary homes in the book. And the thread that kind of binds them all together is this timeless approach, this layered, authentic materials. That's also what creates abundance and warmth and texture. In every home, you can see that, we're really trying to design with intention, diving into like the real needs of the owner, what they find beautiful, making it really authentically them. Whether it's their faith, their values, their interests, their hobbies, we're trying to infuse that to make the homes feel like they have true, authentic personality. And then also, just the quality of craftsmanship and the refinement and elegance is really kind of what defines our work. And it's those kind of core philosophy themes that you see in every project of ours in the book.
Yeah, that definitely comes through.
Well, I just had to comment that both those quotes, yours and Bobby's, were fantastic. They were both wildly beautiful. I think that was where my brain went. And then the other thing I did want to note is, especially anyone who picks up your book will probably notice this, but going through, everything is warm hues. And you were mentioning that, and I'd love for you to even tell me I'm wrong, but for the most part, the colors are muddy and you have a lot of warmth in the spaces. There's a lot of white, but there's also a lot of just depth in the textures, like you were saying, the way you can put the whites with the creams, with the mauves, with the deep red. Even the deep red in here we continue to hear how that color's becoming so prevalent. And, I see it all through your work. And it's just so nice to see these rich, warmish blues too, if that makes sense. They're so deep, like a well, versus like this is blue, and I appreciate
Thank you.
That point of view and hearing your beautiful quote.
Most of the work is very inspired by nature. And you'll see that theme throughout the book, where a lot of the colors are very nuanced. I love bringing in color through rich textures like velvet, mohair, alpaca. And in those textures, you can reach a depth in color that you're not always able to reach in every fabric. So when I use color, I like to go very deep. I love to use gem tones. And you'll see that throughout the book, including obviously a foundation of textural neutrals throughout.
So this brings me to dining rooms and the dine section of your book, because all of your dining rooms feel like jewel boxes. And you use so many really wonderful wallpapers or paint colors in those rooms. And I would love your take on advocating for a dedicated dining room, because I feel like there are so many trends right now where people are repurposing dining rooms or taking dining rooms out. But your spaces, while they're still these jewel boxes, they have a serenity to them as well that I think is really lovely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I absolutely love a dining room. And, I think it kind of goes into just the direction of, the direction our world is going in, where it's just faster paced, do more, be busier, pack your life full of, achievements and the next thing. And I think a dining room just theoretically is a place for us to rest, to stop, to, spend time with the people that mean the most to us. There's nothing more bonding than food and celebrating over food. And, I think there's a reason why the heart of the home is always the kitchen, and where people gather and really want to spend time around. And I think, the dining room is an extension off of that, a place to sit and create those memories. And then just from a design perspective, typically a dining room is a space set apart, and you have the ability to break from what I like to call the kind of global themes of the house, where you can introduce some excitement, some texture. Oftentimes I want just dining rooms to feel like cocoons. And so how to achieve that, whether it's through bringing the ceiling down lower, adding wood to make it feel cozier, wrapping the room in a wallpaper or in a chinoiserie pattern, creating paneling to really bring the space together. It's a great opportunity to infuse design elements and materials, colors and textures into your home that you haven't already done, especially in oftentimes in larger like gathering spaces, living rooms. I tend to keep things more simplistic, more light and airy, something that feels a little bit more kind of like create global rules around your home. And, honestly, that's another tip that I give in the book that readers can take away is basically, when you're starting your home, one of the ways, going back to creating the book and creating the chapters, one of the ways that you can create cohesion throughout the home is really defining your rules for your home. What are the themes that you're going to see throughout the entire home, whether it's, the baseboard details, the trim details, a color of hardware that finds its way throughout, whether it's door hardware, window hardware. Creating those rules that you see more often than not, and then deciding where to break those rules to make a design impact and to make the journey and the experience of traveling around the home interesting.
I do love how it does separate. It goes kind of like you were saying about just even getting dressed, where again, my dining room is my best outfit. Those are my fun, have to have, I'm going to meet people out for dinner situationally, versus my living room where my TV is, I am probably in some sort of sweats, generally speaking.
That's right. I love it.
So it kind of just even, you're kind of, if you think about it in the same situation of what would I like to wear in this space in a different way, it's kind of interesting, And I think even for me, when I was coming up with the concept for my dining room, it really was this is friends on a Friday night. This is Christmas dinner. And then, what does that look like? And really dreaming about how I could make that space feel more special than I wanted my living room. I wanted my living room to feel much more come in here. We're wearing our bathing suit from outside. It's fine. We're just going to sit down. Where dining room, I wanted you to, that whole, no, we're going to party in here and we're going to look good doing it.
That's right. Well, and, each person, that kind of goes back to finding what perfect means to different people. Some people do want the cozy friends around the fireplace in the dining room. They want the candlelight. They want, the formality of that. And other people are no, we are casual. We have kids on a Friday night with the basketball team. And, it's really kind of finding what's right for you. But there's ways that you can create the same kind of emotional impact with different levels of formality as well.
I feel like I keep quoting this book because it is so well written and it so evoked so many things within the writing that there was a section header for the travel section, which is staircases and passages. That is thoughtfully designed hallways and staircases provide moments of graceful progression that elevate the experience of traveling through the home. Okay, that is gorgeous. And that left me envisioning myself in a ball gown, going through the house. It was so fantastic. But really I love that idea of using hallways, passages, staircases as spaces for travel and maybe resetting your thinking about where you're going into next in the home. What are some things that you're thinking about when you are designing these kind of spaces that are sometimes forgotten?
Absolutely. And I think that this is one of the biggest missed opportunities in any home. And, some of the great architects speak about creating compression and release within a space. And that in and of itself creates interest in the experience and the journey of traveling through a home. I think there's so many architectural interesting things that you can introduce in transition moments. And sometimes if you have a small home, like a bungalow, you can create that even with just a beautiful cased opening with a transom, or, in so many of the projects within the home, we're doing beautiful casements with like Harmon doors. If you don't know what a Harmon door is, it's a door that when it's open looks like it's just this beautiful cased opening. But then when you can actually grab the casing on both sides and shut it and make it become a door. And we actually do that a lot, where you almost like create portals and moments of like a stained cased opening. Or sometimes like it's a marble cased opening. The sky's the limit of what you can create in transition. Transition's also a way that you can really tie the home together, especially if you want to create different moments, like we just talked about in the dining room. If you want to create a space that feels very different, introduce a new wallpaper, add a different color into the palette. That's, it's in the transitions that you can kind of tie the home together by keeping the transitions somewhat consistent and changing them when it counts. For example, I love changing the transition into a primary bedroom to signify this is a special room. You're entering into, a really a space set apart. And, you can do that even through introducing an accent door. So often we will, create what I call at my firm, a global selection for the door. And let's say that's a painted white door throughout the home. Well, maybe we change it to stained, going into some special rooms. Maybe it's an antique piece that, just kind of signifies this is something unique. This is a special area to go. So there's ways that you can even signify to people or signal to people where to go throughout the home. Sometimes that's through a wall sconce, welcoming you down an entry. Sometimes it's through a window at the top of a stair that kind of cascades natural light and welcomes you up. There's different ways of kind of introducing people throughout the home. I love using runners in different ways. Even different wallpapers, color palette. You can kind of signal whether you're entering into a more private space, a more casual space, or a more private, secluded area.
I think those transition moments too are the ways that we can keep falling in love with our house and not getting bored with our house.
Absolutely. And you can kind of have fun. There's smaller spaces where you can be more daring. There's actually one project in the book where in a hallway, there was even kind of like a little bay window that was like octagonal, where we introduced like a game table and like a built-in banquette and sofa. So, you can really be creative in those areas, and even introduce like a really fun colored pattern fabric where maybe you didn't know where you could use it elsewhere.
You ready? Okay. I want to go into kitchens. I do not want to. This section of the book was so lovely, and it just, again, it goes
so inspiring.
Yeah, you think about kitchens, and you think about the white kitchen, right? And you're like, I've seen it 12 times, 100. So it's nice to see these kitchens that you have made so very layered. How do you add this to a kitchen, or are there any tips and tricks that you're putting into kitchens now that have really made people's life easier?
Gosh, so many. The kitchen's probably my favorite room to design because I can add such architectural detailing that really can make a kitchen feel special. I think some of the tips around that are create access points. Use the hood. It's very common to use the hood as like a beautiful focal point. You can use windows as focal points. For example, my personal home is in the book, and where I live in like a historic part of Houston, and the lots are not sprawling, and they're actually, the homes are really quite close to each other. So natural light was really important to me and my family. And so instead of a hood, I did a ceiling hood, and I just blew out the entire wall of nothing but windows to really make an impact on the amount of natural light I could bring into the space. So, it's really a space to be creative. Like I said earlier, it's really the heart of the home. It's a space to kind of carve out areas to greet people and to make little nooks for people to sit and stand. In so many of our homes, we create little sitting areas, little lounge areas or maybe it's your living room is close by, and in between the two spaces, there's some swivel chairs that can turn back to the kitchen. There's so many ways to kind of make a kitchen feel unique and interesting. We're bringing in so many different textures to our projects, whether it's a fluted edge on the countertop, whether it's complete marble, full backsplashes. Maybe it's the entire island's made out of marble slabs. I'm also seeing and we're using a lot of oak in kitchens, stain materials, and whether that's the cabinetry or whether we're just introducing a big antique table as the island where possible. I think that's something we're doing a lot. And, I guess finally, it's really all about lighting and introducing impact lighting, whether it's through kind of the more common pendant or through spots for different workspaces. There's just so many things that you can do in a kitchen to make it feel custom and unique. And honestly, even the appliances, kind of speaking from a really practical standpoint, fully integrated appliances are in abundance. So you can do a fully integrated refrigerator where you don't even know it's the refrigerator. You can do that with your wine fridge, your dishwashers, your trash. Some other trends we're seeing right now is like the double dishwasher. The back kitchen, you'll see a lot of that in the book where back kitchens are really popular, where people want their main kitchen that's often connected to gathering spaces. They want that to feel very showman-like or like a showpiece, or they want to hide a lot of the stuff that they want to keep out all the time. So that is actually a very common theme I'm seeing in architecture right now.
These back rooms I would show off too. I've yet to see one of these back rooms look like a back room. They're all so beautiful.
I know. Well, and where a lot of the homes in the book are very aspirational, you can do that in your own space. Even, a very common thing I'm doing every day is put your microwave in your pantry. And that's obviously something that you can keep out. Leave your juicer in your pantry. Design enough room in your pantry to not just be for food. Let it be a workspace that you can really leave appliances out, leave your air fryer out and plugged in. I'm designing pantries every day that are really workspaces and back kitchens, so to say.
And that's a great tip. And we did. I got that tip, thank goodness, in time, because we did put the outlets in there, which is like you said. Yeah. But I don't know to your point, I can't remember the last time I saw a microwave in like a new build. You know what I mean? It's always hidden, or not new build, or renovated, I should say.
Yeah. Well, now with the drawer microwaves, you can hide it behind the island on the side you don't see when you come into a room. But so often I just love putting it in the pantry.
Yeah.
Another really practical tip that you will not see in the book because it's not photographed, but I did in my own personal home, is I really love building in like a water filler into the pantry wall. Like an LK, just really practical. Amazing. LK water filler. They make residential ones. There's other brands available too.
Amazing.
I have 3 really young kids, and it's just a really practical add-in.
I'm sure it's used multiple times a day. Worth every penny.
All the time. Worth every penny. Love it. Use it every day.
That's a really great tip. There is, whichever project has the dark maroonish marble countertop, everyone needs to check it out. I gotta scroll back up and tell you what page, because
there it is. I do love that project.
Oh my gosh, you guys have to see this marble. It is so beautiful. And even again, your use of textures of changing, it seems like you've changed the floor even in these spaces again, where some are stone and there's some brick inlaid on some of the floors, and really add such a texture to that space. That goes so well.
And that's another tip of even like creating connection to the outdoors is so important. And another theme we talk about a lot in the book, but that's one really easy way to create connection to the outdoors is continue the stone that you have on your outdoor porch. Just let that come into kitchen, your mudroom, whatever space you really want to feel connected to the outside.
Yeah, I love that. Like really just continuing the kitchen and thinking of it as just another room in your house where you gather and you do things and you are a family, and that's amazing.
And all the wood. I'm so glad you called that out, because I think, everyone wants to know what people are doing. And your projects really show such a depth of people using wood again in kitchens, and not, it's stained or it's unstained. And you just get to really appreciate the actual material, where I feel like we've gone painted for so long since the honey yellows of 1980s. So we appreciate seeing what we can do now.
Yeah, well, I think that really just goes back to, in the end, if you can stick with authentic natural materials, there's just nothing more beautiful. I mean, God created the best when it comes to incorporating, natural stones into your house. There are beautiful man-made products, but, although they might feel impenetrable, they break and they chip, and you can't buff it out the way you can a natural stone. Another theme we talk about a lot is like embracing patina, and how the imperfect can feel perfect through unlacquered brass, through zinc, through materials that age over time. Even going back to even a marble countertop, kind of embracing that and understanding if you're somebody who has that tolerance. And there's plenty of people who do not have the tolerance for materials like that. And I think that that's part of figuring out what is perfect for you.
I just think that the amount of texture in every space up to your ceilings, that's the other thing. Like floor to ceiling, there is, the beams in the top, or, decorative pattern. God, it's so pretty.
Thank you. And one example of that in the book is, in my own personal home that is highlighted in the book, I have a somewhat of a Tudor style home that the pitches of the roofs allow for incredible ceiling height. And, it's really kind of dissecting each room and what you want the feel to be in each space. So, for example, in my bedroom, I did not want this grandiose statement. I wanted it to be very cocoon-like, in a space that I could read my kids' stories and feel, like a sense of retreat, relaxation, or like solace, escape, basically. And so I ended up, even though we had immense amount of ceiling height capabilities, I brought it down, put a very light natural oak wood on the ceiling, and then introduced, a beautiful tone of like green in the drapery to really kind of make the room feel wrapped and smaller than it could have felt.
I love that.
I'm hard scrolling to find it again so I can picture it. Why you got to get the book. Liz, do you mind if we go into bedrooms and talking about those spaces?
Yeah, let's talk
because
about that.
Because that was a perfect way, because you just started with how you knew what you wanted for your bedroom. But just looking at the depth, again, of the projects in your book, what are some things you find that you're constantly doing to help people really relax in these spaces and breathe?
Well, I think in a bedroom, it's all about the textiles.
Okay.
And, it's the cashmere rug you step off on that has a really high pile. It is the sheets that, wrap you, whether they're linen or percale. And, it's about the senses in a bedroom, I think, It's one of my favorite chairs to add into a bedroom is a swivel rocker. A lot of people only think about those for nurseries, but I have one in my own personal bedroom, and just like a cozy space to read, be able to swivel, look out the window. It's all about the lighting in so many ways. We often don't just introduce a beautiful table lamp into a bedroom, but also like a reading sconce. And that could be a decorative sconce. It could also be very utilitarian, as far as, we have these beautiful ones from Vaughn Lighting that have like a brass almost snake that you would see in a hotel room. Sometimes we even build those into headboards. And then just introducing soft lighting. Oftentimes we'll do a soft toe kick light in a primary bedroom's bathroom. And that is something that can just glow when you need to, go into the bathroom in the middle of the night. It's kind of thinking about using
what
the space.
What is that? Hold up. I don't know about this toe kick light, and I'm going to need a little more definition around it. And so it's a low... Go ahead.
Yeah, it's actually really easy. Anybody could install it. It's really, you take like LED strip lighting, that you can probably order off Amazon. But you obviously have to wire for it, but you can, a look that probably most people have seen is if you have like a floating vanity and like you light underneath it. But you can actually introduce the same idea even into a full cased vanity. You can introduce it into the toe kick.
Okay.
So there's ways to create, or sometimes if you don't have that, if you have like a applied base where you have something that looks like a piece of furniture, you could do it like around a mirror that is slightly raised off the wall. So there's different ways of creating soft lighting that gives moments of glow that aren't just like harsh lights. So I think it's important to think about how you use different spaces and, different pitfalls that you can solve through design.
Okay, so since you've taken us into the bathroom, I want to talk about how amazing it is. You have so many beautiful places to sit, and I mean chairs and stools and and benches in the bathrooms, and I don't always think of that right away, but there are so many great pieces of accent furniture that you've brought into those spaces that really make them feel beautiful and serene. And I also really love accent tables that you've put next to freestanding tubs. I'm like, that's just brilliant. Just put a drinks table right next to your tub.
Gotta have a place to put your wine glass. Well, any chance I get, I love to introduce texture or warmth and softness into a bathroom. Bathrooms can feel very cold and, just sterile without it. One theme you'll probably see in the book is I love a standalone tub with drapery behind it. And that you'll see a lot, even in my own personal bathroom. There's just beautiful access points. First of all, there's nothing more beautiful than natural light. Natural light's something hard that can often be something hard to introduce into a bathroom because of just the architectural constraints. Bringing in softness through different materials. You mentioned the accent tables. I was literally just in a meeting where, somebody's just kind of furnishing something they bought, and the builder just kind of did everything white in there, which is obviously very beautiful. But it's like, how can you bring in a different material? A stained oak side table, a glass side table, if you want some sparkle or some jewel tone to be brought into the space. So it's thinking about ways that you can bring in new materials that add that warmth, that layering, the texture. I also love to do that through antiques. You'll see one bathroom in our Lake Travis project that's in the book that is very kind of Belgian modern minimalist, where it's all about these like rustic, beautiful textures. And instead of doing another built-in case piece, we brought in just like an antique that we found that holds the towels for the shower, and it just sits beautifully next to the shower, and it is a great piece to put a table lamp on.
Is it the dark?
Also, not something.
It's the dark wood chest.
It is. It's a dark wood chest, and it's right next to a very contemporary all glass inlaid shower.
It stood out because I think, to your point, the casing of the room and the space you've made just so clean and beautiful, and this old piece really speaks. So,
Thank you. And it's looking around your own space and finding ways to introduce that warmth, and not being afraid to juxtapose a something gnarly and antique next to something very sleek and contemporary. And I think that's where a lot of the magic can happen.
You also do kind of, speaking of the same similar thing, you have a bathroom that's some beautiful marble with some great veining and such. And all the fixtures are nickel. And then you've brought in this little brass and mirror table next to the tub. And it's the only brass, but it glows. The warmth of it just makes the space feel alive. It's lovely.
Yeah, and I think that's a theme that, is something people have been embracing for a few years now. It's just don't be afraid to mix metals. And even if you have polished nickel as the theme in the room, don't be afraid to incorporate something like brass. And there's ways you can do it. Like if all of the architectural finishes, like the hardware and the plumbing, are the polished nickel, well, then think about like the light fixtures and the table and the looser the looser applications as being a great place to introduce something new that doesn't feel like you're breaking the rule.
That's a good tidbit. There's
really
also one countertop that literally looks like you went into a mountain and shoved a piece, like you carved out a chunk and you carved. Is that exactly what you did? Because that's what it looks like.
Pretty much, yeah. No.
Amazing.
That's in our, I believe you're talking about the powder room in our Jackson Hole project. That was a beautiful project we did with Jeff Duncan, who wrote the foreword. And that entire project was very of the landscape. It's how can we make this feel very appropriate with the geographical context of like being on the side of the mountain looking at the Great Tetons, and just different ways we can kind of bring in authentic materials like that. And then we just carved the sink right out of the boulder.
It is, yep.
It's outrageous. It is so beautiful.
Another thing to point out in that picture is that the faucet actually comes out from the ceiling. And that's another really
my gosh.
I was wondering what the pole was coming down from the ceiling.
There's literally a pole directly above this carved out sink, and that is what it's for.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and the controls for it are in the stone slab, which I thought was a beautiful kind of coordination. Lots of coordination went behind that.
I cannot imagine the coordination. And then again, just speaking to your wonderful juxtaposition that you do, you have a beautiful carved mirror that's very ornate and delicate. The exact opposite of this massive boulder that is so rough and hewn, and it just is so good together. You've done such a beautiful job.
Thank you.
Go get the book, everybody.
Okay, yeah.
Seriously, there's so...
That's right. Please go get the book.
We didn't get to cover all of it, and we apologize, but we don't want to keep you guys here 100 hours, and we still have a decorating dilemma.
We do. And I'm really excited to hear what you've got to say about this decorating dilemma. I feel like we've already touched on a few of the different things going on here. Hello. A friend of mine just moved into a new apartment. She's blending a former style she had of a deep red color with a new lighter, brighter, softer vibe. She asked how to make her living room feel cozier. I've attached photos of the space. You walk in through the front door directly into the room. Any suggestions on floor plan, decor, editing, etc. are welcome. She mentioned wanting a different coffee table too. I love that she's just taking this on for her friend. Thank you, Megan.
That's so fun.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just jump right in.
Jump right in. Yeah, I feel like we already talked about the living room that comes in from the front door.
Yeah, I think red is an amazing color. I think that we're seeing so much warmth in design right now, where for a while so much was gray. I think we're seeing way more browns and reds. I actually just did a beautiful red lacquered room in Colorado that was really dynamic and, a really energizing space. So I think it's perfectly wonderful to embrace the deep reds from her last space. And I think the first part of that would be to curate and edit the pieces that are meaningful and let those pieces follow throughout the room while kind of embracing a nuanced kind of rust tone, I think would really kind of elevate the space and kind of bring the red in. I think balance the deep red by, introducing soft neutral colors. I noticed that the rug is a very beautiful kind of textural pattern, and the sofa has a softness to it. I think you can embrace the layout and make that a little bit inviting by introducing symmetry, possibly if you have the space to be able to flank the fireplace with two sofas. I think that could be really interesting, and even have two chairs next to the fireplace that look back into the room, even if they're smaller scale, more dining room scale. Another thing you could do is, you mentioned the coffee table, introducing a new coffee table. I think round might be a way to work with smaller spaces and allow for flow around the coffee table, maybe something organic in shape or light wood, something like in a light oak, or even a potentially marble finish or plaster finish could be a beautiful introduction. Let's see. I think that, we touched on this earlier, but looking around the space and seeing what textures you can layer in, whether it's like bringing, a beautiful leather chair in, or adding, a beautiful mohair pillow or something that adds some beautiful warmth and softness. I think adding some floor to ceiling draperies would be stunning. And, you could do that in a light and bright, just, white linen, or, wool sateen is my favorite drapery right now. Another opportunity for introducing color. You just want the space to feel tactile and layered. Another way to bring in the red is, we're seeing a lot of really beautiful rust tone Ushak rugs. And I really like the neutral rug that the homeowner has. You could even layer in a smaller Ushak that feels antique and aged just under the coffee table, especially if you did like the coffee table in something kind of light, like a plaster or an oak. That would be just a way to add some coziness. You could also wallpaper the space, even in just like a beautiful seagrass, or, like a Philip Jeffries textural rattan wallpaper would be something that you could do that's really beautiful. And I think lastly, just think about lighting and bringing in a combination of table lamps. I think going back to introducing symmetry to simplify the room is important. Even in I noticed the red paintings that are kind of juxtaposed off each other, like lining those up, minimizing the accessories, editing the accessories, like pick a large vase and a small vase for the mantle and then get rid of the rest. I think simplifying in that way and editing just kind of adds a serenity to the room. And I think by doing like 2 matching table lamps on 2 matching side tables would be a really beautiful way. Or if there's space in the room to introduce a console behind the sofa, you could do 2 matching lamps on that. And then I think that's just a way to really kind of brighten the space, make it feel cozy, make it feel really inviting and welcoming to your guests.
Really great advice.
Well, I think adding drapes is, we say that all the time, just the level of your eye going up and really making the space feel so finished is great.
And creating symmetry in that room is going to be fantastic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, one of our favorite, talking about adding drapery, one of our favorite combinations, if you can, is, adding the drapery, sometimes 1 or 2 layers if you want to add a sheer on the inside, and then adding a woven wood inside Mount Roman is like my go-to combination of like, that's instant texture, instant warmth, the beautiful heaviness of like the layering. If it's a beach house, maybe the drapery is just a really light linen sheer that you just see right through, but it adds that warmth, that softness. It just even helps with the acoustics of a room and the feel of walking into the space.
Oh, that's great. Well, Megan, I hope your friend appreciates you reaching out and getting advice on her home.
Yes, best of luck.
She's going to send him this podcast and be like, just listen to the end.
Just
and
listen.
don't even buy this book. It's perfect.
And you need a nuanced green book on the coffee table.
You see, there we go.
Oh my God.
Well,
that's so great.
Marie, this has been so wonderful. And the book, like I said, we didn't even get through it all before time was up. So it is wildly worth the read and just enjoying these gorgeous spaces. So what a dream job. Just amazing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it and I really appreciate it. I hope y'all have a good one.
Thank you so much for the book signing events that you've had at our stores in Houston and Charleston, and upcoming, by the time that this episode comes out, we'll have an episode or a book signing event at our Manhasset store on November 14th. So everyone in the New York area, please get out to Long Island and visit Marie. Marie, can you tell us where everyone else can find you, follow you, and see your work?
And buy the book.
And buy the book.
Buy the book. You can find the book in several boutique stores, Amazon, Target, at our website at marieflanagan.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Marie Flanagan Interiors, and we're on all the platforms. I can't even think of all the platforms.
We are there. We are on there.
All the things. Please find us. We'd love to have you follow along on our journey.
Amazing.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
and
guys.
that's our show.
And that's our show. You can find all of the show notes on our blog, howtodecorate.com/podcast.
To send in a decorating dilemma, email your questions to podcast@ballarddesigns.net so we can help you with your space.
And of course, be sure to follow us on social media at Ballard Designs.
Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. And please leave us a review. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Until next time, happy
Happy
decorating.